Good evening. Welcome to the February 5th Village Council meeting. We are going to begin by going into, let's call the roll.
Let's do it. Stokes.
I'm here.
DeVore Leonard.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Housh.
Here.
Gustafson.
Here.
Also present is Village Manager Johnny Burns and Village Solicitor Amy Blankenship.
Alrighty. And now we will begin further proceedings by heading into an executive session to discuss...
For the purpose of discussion of the employment of a public employee.
Yes, we are. And I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All right. You call the roll.
Stokes.
Yes.
DeVore Leonard.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Housh.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So for the beginning, Johnny and Judy, we do want you to be here. We'll switch gears later on.
Let's go to me.
Well, welcome back to the February 5th, 2024 regular council meeting. We were in executive session, and now that we are back, I'd like to entertain a motion to come back into the regular session.
So moved.
Second.
All right, this is a roll call. All right.
You can just.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we are really back. And I do not have an agenda in front of me.
You know, hang on.
Do the update.
There are-
Yep. While we're, it's up. It's good. Where's Judy? Okay.
Things are missing.
Okay, something's missing. Anyway, so I did just mention that we were in executive session. The reason that we were in executive session, excuse me, was for the purpose of discussion of employment of a public employee. As you all are aware, we currently have Johnny Burns placed as our interim village manager. We are stepping through a process that will make a final determination whether we will do a search externally, whether we will do a search internally, or whether we will assign Johnny as the permanent village manager. And all of those are possibilities. So we've talked about that and talked about the steps that we would go through to get to the end of that process. We will be, as a group, have another meeting. I think we're looking at the 14th on Valentine's Day, and that meeting will be preceded by another executive session where the five of us will interview Johnny 5-on-1. And soon after that, probably by our next meeting on the 20th, we'll announce our decision in terms of where we are regarding the end of that process. Council, am I missing any salient points?
No.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your support. All righty. We are here. Announcements. Do we have any announcements?
Well, I think we already know that it's Johnny Burns' birthday, double digits, I believe, and so Judy made an awesome cake, and feel free if anybody needs a little sugar through the meeting, grab a piece. And it's nice to see one of our Community Foundation Youth Action Board members here. That was one of the things I wanted to mention. Johnny, Florence, Mayor Pam, and I were amongst the panelists talking about things we can prioritize in the village. Great meeting, and some great ideas that our local youth have, including getting more engaged in local government. So we welcome that. I wanted to mention to folks that didn't get to the Village Cafe that I did talk to Len Kramer after the event, and he's planning to summarize the input and provide a report out to council, which I think will be really valuable. Also, lots of kudos to Ruth Peterson, our former dispatcher extraordinaire, and we've gotten to celebrate her retirement a couple times. Couple folks I wanted to thank for their service. We had the Environmental Council retreat, and Rebecca Potter and Catherine Zimmerman are leaving the group, and so we are definitely advertising for new members. Carmen's doing a great job as the liaison, and I'm happy to be in the mix too. Yeah, it's going to be fun. And then I wanted to mention all of council, and Judy can help coordinate this. April 18th is the annual MVRPC dinner. Typically, we get a table because I know staff members like to attend, and I recommend it to council members as well. And the last thing, I think it's good to mention here because we don't really have it on the agenda. The last time the Housing Committee met, we talked about that we wanted the pursuit of the low-income housing tax credit opportunity to continue to be explored. And so we are recommending that that be an initiative that's led by Home Inc. They're in a great position to do that. I know that Johnny's talked with Emily, and a committee's being formed so that we're not, at the last minute like what happened last year. So we're going to be looking at that process over the next 9 months. But I think the Housing Committee, recommends, and I think Council seems to all be supportive of seeing how we can take advantage of that opportunity. So that's what I've got.
All right, thank you, Brian. I will add, I was tempted to ask Judy to put this information in the packet, but I think I'll wait and I won't steal Chief Burgess' thunder on this one, because she's has put together a team to address concerns around the total solar eclipse that will happen on the 8th of April. It will be impacted on either side of the, I say from like 1:15 to maybe 3:15, give or take, with total eclipse happening about 10 after 3. The schools will make a determination. They'll have a meeting, I guess, this week, and they'll make a determination about whether they will close. It has been suggested that they do close because right around 3 o'clock, when it'll be total darkness, is when the buses will be out. So that's probably what's going to happen. I shared information with Antioch College, just as one of the institutions that's got land. And what tends to happen in these areas where folks travel to view a total eclipse, the population can almost quadruple. And folks will want to park their vans and buses and campers almost anywhere they can. So I think the state's motto is come early, stay late. So that we don't have hordes trying to come in all of a sudden on that Monday morning and then want to leave on Monday afternoon. So lots of moving pieces with that, but again, I'll allow Chief Burge to come back here to council probably in maybe our next meeting and have something to say, because
Should be off next meeting.
well, there won't be the next meeting then.
We'll have an update then.
But there'll be an update. Thank you, Johnny. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that if all things go well, the thinking has gone from, oh my God, what are we going to do, to, well, we should try to manage this, get young folks out and let them be parking attendants and make it happen and control it as best we can. Johnny's already put in an order for a whole bunch of porta potties because folks that'll be here for maybe a couple of days, we want them to have an enjoyable stay. And of course, this village being as popular as it is on a regular basis, certainly we anticipate being one of the hot spots where there'll be large crowds gathering. So there is that. Please be aware of and be on guard, if you will, for more information around there. All right? Okay. Excuse me. Now to the consent agenda, we have the minutes from our last regular session, January 6th regular session. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, bless you. Those minutes are approved. Also, the minutes of our January 26th council retreat. Can I get a motion for that as well?
So moved. Second?
All right, thank you. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Okay, thank you. Review of the agenda. Is there anything on the agenda that we need to kick to the curb? Anything missing from the agenda that you feel like you need to add? Anything burning and very, very urgent?
So just got word from PACC chair, they won't be able to do the presentation this evening. So can we move that?
You can, unless you want to do it. Presentation's all ready to go.
Yeah.
You haven't looked at it or whatever.
I mean, I've looked at it. I mean, we can run through the slides, I guess. It's
So
a different.
it's going to stay on the
Well, and the
agenda?
other piece of it is, though, EC is going to do something at the next meeting, too. So it would be nice to have those both together if we're not totally loaded.
It's loading up that next one. Just saying. Just tell Amy she's going to have to speak faster at the
That's
next
5
meeting.
minutes. Okay.
Well, okay. We will, let's leave it on the agenda and then put Carmen on the spot. No, but you want it off, or?
You really want to?
Well, if the slides are there, and I think it would be in the best interest.
I don't really want.
Okay, and I don't want.
I don't really want.
Not a problem. Not a problem at all.
Okay.
All right, Judy, you get that? So it's coming off.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anything else? Are we good with that, Judy?
Oh, yeah.
That being off? Okay, so it's done. Okay, great. Thanks. All righty. Petitions and communications. Gavin, if you would, please.
Yes, we received 2 letters in support of Johnny Burns for village manager, one from Patti Bates and one from Max Crome. And then Brian Housh put information in on a grant that's coming from the Dayton Foundation. So it's $10,000 that will come to the village to implement the walkability and bench project that was received.
Okay.
And then you had two at your spot. One was relevant to tonight. One was regarding, in support of Johnny Burns. Both of those will be in the next packet. But the one was urging passage of Resolution 2024-12 regarding a ceasefire. And that I put it, obviously that's relevant to tonight's
Right. Gotcha.
things.
Okay. Thank you for that. Brian, are you going to maybe down the road say something about that grant? And I'm not asking you to now if you don't want to, but just to give us more details.
I think, we've got what the project is in the packet. I know the age-friendly group talked with Johnny, and so just wanted to make sure everyone here knew that that $10,000 comes to the village
Yep.
to implement that project.
All right. Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for your work on that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. All right, public hearings and legislation. There's no second readings or anything else that's emergent. So, Judy, if you could read by title only, ordinance number 2024-01.
Indeed. This is rezoning one parcel totaling .55 acres of property located at 545 Dayton Street from Conservation C District to Medium Density Residential RB District and amending the zoning map accordingly.
Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved.
I'll second that. All right, Meg.
Yeah, this is a zoning map amendment or a rezoning request to rezone property from conservation to medium-density residential. It was submitted on behalf of the property owners who've owned the property for several decades now. The property owners are Sandra and Jean McKee. So they would like to construct a single-family home on the property, but the current zoning conservation doesn't allow residential development. So they're requesting RB, which allows single-family homes. Planning Commission reviewed it on January 9th and is recommending approval to the council. The code requires that the council accept the Planning Commission's recommendation or hold a meeting to accept it, and then should they accept it, schedule a public hearing at a subsequent meeting, and then hold a public hearing at that point in time. So public testimony will be at a second meeting. And so that's what we're here for tonight, and I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions? Go ahead. Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay, okay. No questions now. With this being the first reading, we will see this again for the second reading, and we'll move forward with it then. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, Judy, if you could now read Resolution 2024-11 by title only.
This is authorizing payment of invoices with a then announced certificate for the first quarter of 2024.
All right, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All right. Hi, Amy.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. We have a then and now certificate for Bricker Graydon for J&T Excavating for the December statement for $3,480. Then and now means that there was not enough in the budget, and the PO from 2023 to pay this, so we're moving it forward to 2024, and it's over my $3,000 threshold. Any questions?
Any questions for Amy on that? Okay. All righty. So, no questions. Amy has shared in the information in our packet. All in favor of passing that resolution, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, the resolution has passed. Now, Judy, if you could please read Resolution 2024-12 by title only.
Hold on. Had my updated copy.
Do you need one?
What's that?
Do you need the updated copy?
I have it. And Carmen, did you want this read in full or no?
Did something change from the one that we had, to the updated copy?
Nothing, nothing significant.
Okay. So the one we have here is the updated one? The one we had at our desk? Okay.
Correct. Carmen, do you have feelings about wanting this read or no?
Yeah, I do want it read.
Kevin, is that agreeable?
Yes.
All right, here we go. This is supporting the congressional and worldwide calls for immediate ceasefire in Gaza and the release of innocent civilians. Whereas the Village of Yellow Springs advocates for the dignity and the right to self-determination of all human beings in every community in the great state of Ohio, the United States, and around the world, regardless of religion, race, class, or nationality. And whereas the Village of Yellow Springs values and actively advocates for democracy, freedom, equity, diversity, and peace for all people, and strongly supports Palestinians and the integrity of their culture. And whereas local community members have, in our village's long-standing tradition, organized marches and facilitated opportunities for our youth to participate in the democratic process through walkouts and nonviolent resistance. And whereas community members have expressed struggling with mental and emotional health issues due to a feeling of hopelessness while witnessing a humanitarian crisis unfold, we believe a permanent ceasefire alleviates these difficulties with a permanent ceasefire. And whereas we condemn the loss of innocent lives in Israel and Palestine, where over 1,000 people in Israel and an escalating number, currently over 25,000 Palestinians in Gaza, killed in a matter of 120 days, of whom over 10,000 are children. And whereas we celebrate the release of some Palestinian and Israeli hostages and political prisoners, we recognize that there are still approximately 138 Israeli hostages held in Gaza and over 7,000 Palestinian men, children, and women being held captive without being charged with any crime in Israel. And whereas Gaza remains in dire humanitarian crisis that is getting insurmountably worse each passing day, with the last 5 remaining hospitals now only partially functional at best, as fuel and medical supplies near depletion, and with over 1.5 million Palestinians facing displacement, homelessness, and starvation. And whereas international humanitarian organizations like Amnesty International, the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, the International Rescue Committee, and many others have made calls for a ceasefire to prevent further civilian loss of life following international humanitarian law. And whereas according to the United States Campaign for Palestinian Refugees, Yellow Springs residents' federal tax dollars have, since November 2023, contributed $68,965 to Israel's weapons, and the use of these weapons against Palestinian civilians is entirely unacceptable and is a violation of our humanitarian principles and international law. And whereas our federal government holds immediate diplomatic power to save Palestinian and Israeli lives, and local governments play a role in our democracy to urge needed legislation and policy changes at all levels, now therefore be it resolved that, Section 1, Council for the Village of Yellow Springs at this moment urges that the Ohio delegation, including Senators J.D. Vance, Representative Michael Turner, and Governor Mike DeWine, to join Senator Sherrod Brown in his support of House Resolution 786, which calls for an immediate de-escalation and permanent ceasefire in occupied Palestine and Israel, as put forward by Michigan Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib and others. Council for the Village of Yellow Spring calls for an end to United States funding of wars and military activity across the globe so that we can focus our shared resources on addressing issues experienced by the people of the United States who hail from all over the world and who call this country home.
Thank you, Judy. Gavin, I know you had a question. Did your question get answered about Senator Brown's?
Did we do a motion and second?
You did not yet.
Didn't we? I'm sorry. I will entertain a motion. I'm sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thanks. Gosh, I guess we haven't read a resolution this long in a while. I forgot whether we had done that. So I do apologize to everyone for that. Thanks, Brian, for keeping me honest. About...
I think what you're flagging, to my knowledge, I can't find anything that indicates that Senator Sherrod Brown supports a ceasefire. Obviously, I support a ceasefire, and I would love for Senator Sherrod Brown to support a ceasefire, but I don't think that he does currently, which is disappointing. So just to say, I don't know if it's like that part. And then the only other thing I've flagged is just that I think, and Judy, you sent a message saying it was a lot of this was, working off a resolution in Michigan, which is I think why they put forward by Michigan Congresswoman, but
She
the
put it
leads
forward.
was Cori Bush is
Right.
the
Booker, the Bush.
Cori Bush, yeah, from Missouri was so anyway, I don't feel that strongly about that piece, but
Okay.
the piece around shared supporting, I don't know, hopefully we can all advocate to the point where he does, but I don't think he does right now.
And I too, support a humanitarian ceasefire, but I'm not sure if I understand what Section 2 is saying, and hopefully someone can help me with this. Calls for an end to United States funding of wars and military activity across the globe. I mean, that seems broad to me, and my point is, right now, we have forces in the region to protect commercial trade and our assets and whatnot, so I'm just wondering, can someone tell me if this is meant to, say, pull all those resources back? And I know other folks have done this. Okay. Does anyone else understand my concern?
Yes.
Okay.
So actually, so I want to say, first of all, I really appreciate the work that's been done and bringing this forward. My understanding is that it's about 70 municipalities across the nation, so very few that have passed a resolution. And I also appreciate the efforts around the organizers and just bringing attention to this. I think one way we can resolve Section 1, so I'll just make the motion now, is to amend it to say, it already says senators, so it could say including Senators Sherrod Brown and J.D. Vance to support House Resolution 786. So I'll make that motion.
Okay. Do we have to do like a second or something?
If we're going to change it.
Okay. Wow.
Do you want to do them both or on one, each individual?
I'll start with that one.
Okay, second.
All right. Help me understand what that change is again, Brian.
So it would just be including Sherrod Brown with J.D. Vance to support House Resolution 786.
So it takes out the words join Senator Sherrod Brown.
Okay. I got you.
Support.
Thank you. I just want to know where we're going there. And I guess I don't have an answer for my struggle with Section 2.
Well, I've got a second
Okay,
for that. So
great.
We've got a
Okay, all in favor of the current modification, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I need someone to read me exactly how it's going to read.
I can do that, Brian, unless you got it.
Council for the Village of Yellow Springs at this moment urges the Ohio delegation, including Senators Sherrod Brown and J.D. Vance, Representative Michael Turner, and Governor Mike DeWine, to support House Resolution 7086, which calls for.
Removing Senator Tlaib.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So on section 2, I think for me, I feel that it's a more powerful statement if we connect with the title. So here's what I thought about for section 2. Council for the Village of Yellow Springs calls for an end to United States funding of war. No, that's not mine. Judy, you've got it.
Yes, I do. I put it in front of you, I lost in the other 14 pages. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Council for the Village of Yellow Springs calls for all Palestinian and Israeli hostages to be returned to their families and for the end of terrorist and military activity across the globe so that we can focus our shared resources to improve quality of life for people of all backgrounds and beliefs. So I thought it was important, number one, that because the title also talks about returning hostages. And then I do think a statement about terrorism and military activity is appropriate, so.
Okay. So you, go ahead. Go,
Sorry,
Gavin.
did I hear you right? So that sort of shifts away from the focus on resources addressing issues experienced by the people of the United States. So it's like sort of broadening it out.
So I think that, we could also consider, something in the realm of season of nonviolence and world peace. But I feel like this resolution, we're focused on ceasefire and releasing innocent civilians.
Okay. So would you mind please then reading, so what you are offering, Brian, is a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to replace section 2 with Council for the Village of Yellow Springs calls for all Palestinian and Israeli hostages to be returned to their families and for the end of terrorist and military activity across the globe so that we can focus our shared resources to improve quality of life for the people of all backgrounds and beliefs.
All right, I'll second that motion. All right, all in favor of approving that amendment?
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
So I guess I'm just wondering, the first one felt to me like sort of a, I don't know, just a cleanup kind of thing. So I'm just interested in, that one's more substantive. I know there's been a lot of work that's gone into it. Is there,
Well,
can
actually,
we get other?
we copied that section 2 from Ypsilanti, Michigan. So
Okay.
I think, to me, this responds to focusing on both ceasefire and returning hostages, which is the title of the resolution. And then secondly, I share what Kevin brought up. I mean, we have a resolution supporting Ukraine that this body passed. I don't think we agree with what Iran's doing and whatnot. So it basically indicates that we're opposed to terrorism and military activity, but it doesn't make the statement that we're asking the United States to take away all funding.
I guess all I was asking is, I don't know if we're doing public hearing on this. I just wondered if, before we made substantive changes to it, if there are other, if it was just a cut and paste from another place and no one
It wasn't
feels strongly about
it wasn't just a cut and paste.
Okay.
First of all, it wasn't just a cut and paste, and I'm insulted that I was. So thank you for the Sherrod Brown information. That's gone up and down, but the citing of sources and the language that I used is intentional, and that I worked on it so hard with members of this community and people that I attended the 30th March anniversary of the March on Washington with. At this point, it feels to me like, with all due respect to President, bringing up cargo and commerce when we were having a conversation about people's lives, and I updated the numbers, seems a little tone deaf. So I'm unequivocally opposed to changing Section 2 because I wrote it exactly how I meant it. But of course, if the body sees fit and we get a second and a motion to approve, I'll vote against it, but I will be outvoted if we decide to go that way.
The discussion we just had is in concert with previous activity that we've taken to support positive efforts in that region. And what I am saying, I'm not differentiating and I'm not diminishing the humanitarian aspect. I mentioned that earlier, and I think Brian's offering of rewording discusses the critical points of what the resolution is discussing as being reflected in the title. My point is, since I asked the question and could not get a response in terms of really what that meant, all military activity across the globe, I mean, some military activity that we're doing is necessary. And I think we'd be undoing, for example, thank you, Brian, for that example, of the Ukraine resolution. I mean, there's a bill in the Senate now that I would support, and I hope the U.S. Senate would support, that's funding Ukraine, funding Israel, and have funds going to the border. And so I think changing that still does all the good that it wants to do. It just doesn't say, the funding that we are sending to various places across the world is doing good in some places. And I'm saying, why would we advocate to not do that?
So, and the other piece that really quickly, and then purposefully I put the people of the United States who hail from all over the world who call this country home. My father is a Vietnam vet.
And that's still staying in there.
Right. And also, you guys realize this is symbolic, right? So, recognizing that, are we really going to pick apart what I wrote?
No, it's not about what you wrote personally.
Yes. Okay. Are you really going to pick apart what is written? Like, are we doing that? If we're doing it, we're doing it.
So,
do we have a motion for that change to be made?
Brian did make the motion, and
Okay.
I seconded it.
Okay.
Oh, I was about to second, but I don't know if I finished the second.
I was just trying to understand the process.
Yeah.
I know there are people here that feel strongly about it. I would be interested in I didn't know what the background was on how it came to be. So
I did see one hand. We're breaking protocol a bit here, but just
Public hearing? Oh, because we have a first and a second. Are we good?
No public hearing, but we're taking comments, is what Kevin's saying, yeah?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I saw your hand. I didn't.
Because it's not an ordinance. Yeah.
Jessica Thomas, Villager. I just would like to say to council that having attended the rallies, attending meetings, I think it is really important that we recognize in Section 2 that a lot of the language around ceasefire is being echoed on several fronts throughout the world, not just in Israel, also in Ukraine. I think one thing that we fail to recognize is the U.S.'s complicity in these endless wars, and by adding Section 2, we are making it known that we would like our tax dollars to go towards humanitarian aid, to go to funding that will help people reach resolutions without violence. And that is supposedly one of our village values in Yellow Springs, is peaceful ways of dealing with conflict. We talk a lot about it. Let's be about it with this resolution.
Any other comments? Go ahead. Please identify yourself and your affiliation with the college.
My name is Ezra Hardman. I use they, them pronouns. I was born and raised in the village, current village resident as well. I'm a member of YS Uproar, the people that worked together to get the protest going. I think it's very important with some of the language brought up, and here the ties and language around the term of terrorist and terrorism, especially in this topic. If we're talking about the U.S. assets in the Red Sea, I believe, how that is spurred from the global tensions of the people there stopping cargo going to and from Israel, and the U.S. and U.K. stepping in to say, no, we can't stop that. Those global difficulties. I feel like, as was said with Yellow Springs and what we stand for, I know that was a lot of our call to action with YS Uproar, is how we have talked about peace, peaceful protests, peaceful everything, peaceful living, and how it has been very quiet in the village so far with the current genocide in Gaza being perpetrated by Israel and being funded by U.S. tax dollars. And so I think that this, as it was written, is very important to look at the language used, as was said.
Brian, you want to continue with your motion to amend?
I think we should vote on the motion. And I guess the only other comment I'll mention is that, as I said, season of nonviolence and world peace resolution, I would also be open to. But I guess I don't want to dilute the message, so.
All right. Just for the record then, Brian, because we are going to vote on this, the modification to Section 2, and what you offered is effectively a new Section 2. And does everyone understand? It's not written. Brian just read it. Is everybody comfortable voting one way or the other based on hearing the reading?
Yeah.
Brian, would you mind reading it again, please?
Sure. Section 2, Council for the Village of Yellow Springs calls for all Palestinian and Israeli hostages to be returned to their families and for the end of terrorist and military activity across the globe so that we can focus our shared resources to improve quality of life for people of all backgrounds and beliefs.
All right, there was a motion. There was a second. Judy, just so we can be clear, do you mind doing a roll call?
Yeah, I would not mind. DeVore Leonard?
I mean, can I abstain? I in the spirit of, I don't want to get on anybody's bad side about this. I appreciate the work that's been done. I don't feel super strongly about it. So can I just abstain? Is that?
That's perfect.
You could. It could create problems. We'll
Okay.
see what happens. Housh?
Yes.
Gustafson?
No.
Brown?
No.
Stokes?
Well, it doesn't matter. The motion would not move forward. I'll say yes because I asked the question, but the motion will fail 2-2. I thank you for folks who came up to speak. I really appreciate you. Even though I don't have that question answered, I am okay with leaving Section 2 as it is because, Ezra, some things you said made it a little more clear for me, and I appreciate that. So I'm comfortable, even though I don't know the breadth of what was intended, but you spoke to it very well, and I appreciate that. I'm comfortable leaving Section 2 as is, unless someone else has another modification. Okay? So, Section 2 will remain unchanged. We made modifications to Section 1. We did have a motion and a second for the modifications and for the entire resolution. So all in favor of passing this resolution with the aforestated amendments, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. The resolution has passed. Thank you once again, everyone who came to speak on that. And I've lost my place again. All right, we're good. Citizen concerns. This is in the portion of the meeting where if you are here to speak on an issue that is not represented in the agenda, you may come up, identify yourself, indicate your affiliation with the village. Our clerk will be the official timekeeper. We'll allow 3 minutes for your comments. And as citizen concern and as is customary with Robert's Rules of Order, there should be no expectation of a response from council to whatever your comments are. So, do we have any citizen concerns?
Jessica Thomas, villager. I am speaking on Johnny Burns in favor of him becoming our next village manager. It was not on the agenda because it just said employee discussion in executive session. So when I think about leadership, I think about 3 things: integrity, longevity, and know-how. Johnny Burns has all of these things and has shown his dedication to this community and our values. To suggest otherwise is just flat out wrong. I know that Johnny has worked with the village for 10 years, but I know that he has been familiar with this village for probably his entire life. And as someone who could not afford as a child to live in Yellow Springs, I think that we need to be really careful about nitpicking our connections to Yellow Springs when choosing a village manager. Johnny has shown us in the past 10 years that he's able to work with all types of personalities. He's been here longer than several village managers. He's worked through many tenures. He's worked through many tenures of many council members. And over the past 6 months, I have not heard very many complaints at all about what the village is doing. In fact, I've heard people praise the uptick in communication about projects being done, about Johnny's availability and his response time. I've heard from village employees how they're excited to come to work again, how they enjoy working for Johnny, and quite frankly, people who are considering quitting. They were considering quitting, and now they've changed their minds because of the vast difference in the way that the village building feels with Johnny as interim village manager. I was a little bit shocked to hear things such as legitimizing the process and other gatekeeping terms that feel classist, and from council members saying that they hadn't heard people talking in positive ways about Johnny's work in the village, because that's literally all I hear. I talk to a lot of people around town, and they're all have always been supporters of Johnny, and so I think for most of council, you should work harder. You should work harder at talking to the people who are working class, who support Johnny. Another thing on legitimizing the process, we have shown ourselves over and over again that sometimes the process isn't the best thing. Thinking about our police chief, who always receives glowing reviews from council. She was a last-minute application, and let's not kid ourselves if we're going to talk about this. She applied after she was named interim and then was given the job. Okay, he's shown us that he can do the job. He's shown us that he can go above and beyond and actually do 2 jobs at once. Let's not waste any more taxpayer time and money. We want Johnny as village manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Any other citizen concerns? All right, seeing no indication of any, we're moving on to special reports. So we have Planning Commission end-of-year report.
Hi, I'm Susan Stiles, and I'm representing the Planning Commission. And in 2023, we focused on expanding housing opportunities through meaningful code amendments and several development efforts, including the 90 new homes with Spring Meadows subdivision, and approval of the preliminary PUD for the Cascades, the Yellow Springs Home Inc. 32-unit senior housing. In addition, we encourage business expansion with the approval of 2 final PUDs for the redevelopment of Bushco and the final development plan for Massey's Creek Ventures. Early in the year, we heard a presentation from Neighbors for More Neighbors, and in fact, we heard them, I think, as a result of council sending them to us. And as a result of that, we made some significant code amendments that may potentially expand housing opportunities. The slide you have now on the left is the Spring Meadows subdivision. In the middle is Glen Helen, where they're doing a new parking lot. And then on the right is the Cascades, the Home Inc. Project for senior housing. The next slide, I think, just has the members of the Planning Commission. So along with myself is Stephen Green, Gary Zarinsky, Scott Osterholm. Frank Doden is our alternate. Gavin DeVore-Leonard has been our council representative. And Carmen Brown has been the council alternate. And then looking at our meetings, and I can't see what that one says, but we had 11 meetings in 2023. We didn't have one in January. Normally, we didn't have one in August, but Gavin talked us into having one in August. And we reviewed the comprehensive land use plan, and we sort of came up with our goals for the year. And so during the year, we approved 2 new tattoo shops, one in Millswork and one in Bushco at 144 Clift, 1 home occupation, 1 new parking lot for Glen Helen, 1 preliminary PUD, that's for Home Inc.'s senior housing, 7 zoning code amendments, 2 preliminary PUDs, 2 transient guest lodgings, 1 minor subdivision, 1 accessory dwelling unit, and then 1 final development plan for the Massey's Creek Ventures at 108 Cliff Street. And then the code amendments we had, and these were all sent to council, and I believe council approved all of them, that now properties annexed into the village will be zoned RB instead of RA. Now 2-family duplex, single-family attached, and multifamily are allowed as a conditional use in RA. And there's a chart at the bottom that shows you the residential zones. And then we modified the business district B1 and B2 to allow residential on the upper floors of the building with non-residential uses as a permitted use. And we modified the industrial zones I1 and I2 to allow residential in buildings with non-residential as a conditional use. And then we added definitions for the aid to construction and the utilities review. The other significant thing that happened, which was really very significant, was halfway through the year, Denise Swinger retired. And we really thought Denise was a wonderful staff member, and we were very sad to have her go. But I remember just before she left, she was very excited and told me that the village had hired Meg Leatherman, and that Meg had the educational background and the experience in planning. And so she was very excited about her. So Meg and I are sharing the presentation, and Meg's going to continue it. And then at the end, if there are any questions, we can take them.
All right, thanks. Yeah, so I'm new. I've been here since June, as you guys know. Well, I guess you don't, so that's helpful. Been here since June. Denise was here for over 10 years, but she established like a really good department, really good administration, so I was able to walk into like not a lot of problems and hit the ground running with my experience and education. It made it really easy just to kind of not have a seamless transition. So it's been really great. I've loved being here. So thank you, and thanks to the community. I hope to get to know everyone in the community better and the ins and outs with all the details of everyone's opinions and everything as we move forward, but it takes time, and so I'll focus on that as well, if I can be not as busy as we are, which is what we'll highlight here moving in the next couple slides. So I wanted to also mention that it's me in the planning department, and Susan highlighted with the Planning Commission applications, but we also do zoning permits, which are staff level type applications. We oversee the Board of Zoning Appeals and then building permits, and I'll highlight those in the next slides. Chelsea is a part-time, she kind of has multiple hats like all of us, but assistant kind of to me, and then also really focuses on the building permit review right now. All right, so first step, zoning permits. Sorry, I'm still on the slide, Judy. I know I'm going to be I'm talking too much. I'll try to be focused. Zoning permits are reviewed at the staff level and do not require a public hearing. And there are several different types on this slide. You can see the different types and the number that we process and approve throughout 2023, 144 in total, which is a 14% increase year over year from 2022, but it's about the same number as 2021. So we're about to the same level in 2023 as 2021 for reviewing staff level zoning permit type applications. The only thing that really went down significantly from years ahead of it were transit guest lodging, and that's because of the code amendments that went through. And then I think the sign permits were up a little bit year over year, and the fence was a little bit up year over year. But everything else is pretty much the same as other years. So for building permit review, it's new to the village. We obtained the required state certifications in August 2021, and so 2022 was our first full year of administering building permits. We contract with a National Inspection Corporation, or you'll hear us say NIC for short quite a bit. I'm sorry for that. I just introduce you to the acronym because I know I say it without even people knowing what it means. So Natural Inspection Corporation, NIC, they do our building plan review and building inspections. Chelsea, again, and I play a large role in that as well. I just wanted to highlight that. Even though we contract with NIC, we're still involved in the administration when the building permit application, it's required to be submitted to us first with payment. We also are involved in the middle of the process when they complete the plan review, NIC, they let us know, and we let the applicant know. And then at the end, when the inspections are complete, we're involved again and collect a remaining balance of fees due. So there's quite a bit of administration for the building permit review. And just to highlight the number of building permit applications we processed in 2023, there were 131, which is up from the prior year by about 17%. And then the total project cost of investment in the community was about $6.9 million in 2023, compared to 2022, which was about a little bit over $9.5 million. But less permits that year, and that's because we had the YSO old schoolhouse in 2022. That was a $6 million project cost that kind of elevated it a little bit there. So over the last 2 years, about $15 million in investment in the community. All right, and then I just wanted to end with highlighting the Board of Zoning Appeals. They play a vital role. There were only 2 meetings in 2023, but they do all the variance application reviews. And there were 4 applications variances that were approved. And then also that Anthony Salmonson was recently appointed as chair for this upcoming year. And that's all I have. And Susan and I will stand for any questions that you guys might have for us. Or you can always stop by and I can give you a tour and really go into the details of all the fun we have with permit.
Well, Meg, you had mentioned in terms of your zoning permits review, the numbers were, changed from 22 to 23, but you suggested that maybe the transient guest lodging applications was down. Do you happen to know off the top of your head the total number of transient guest lodgings we have in the village?
Yeah, total in the whole community?
Yeah.
Yeah, gosh, we just did a report out to Planning Commission. I believe it was 40. Yeah, I was going to, okay, 40.
42. Okay, all right.
Yeah, and then it keeps actually going down a little bit each year because we have a couple that were grandfathered in before the current code, and so they're closer than 500 feet or they're non-owner occupied, and so as those expire or discontinue use, they fall off and we don't allow them again.
Right.
So it's kind of going down a little bit, and our revenue is going down from it too a little bit.
Right. All right. Good.
Did you have? Go ahead. Okay. So, do you know offhand, before we had our building department, what the number of permits we were dealing with were?
I actually don't. We'd have to get it from Greene County because Greene County did it before, and so I only have half of 2021, which was like 24. So I don't really have a good measurement for it.
And then you just mentioned something about non-owner, operator, occupied that were grandfathered in, but they're still paying the mitigation fee, right?
Correct,
Okay.
they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And Amy has handed that off somewhat to me and filled me in on where people are at with paying for the fees and stuff, and which ones are non-owner occupied, and
Cool.
so hopefully we won't get any, we can just again keep up with administering it appropriately with her leaving. Because I know it was kind of not as clear before, but.
Yep. And then I guess one other quick question, might be Susan's, but it was referred to a couple times in the presentations, the Cascades project. So my understanding is that the first 16 units are focused on senior housing, but the second 16 units are open, right, Susan? I mean, I thought that's what Emily told me.
They may know better. What I know is that in the last section, they will have for sale units. And those will be open really to anyone.
Okay. Great. Thanks.
Brian, those are the ones that face Marshall Street?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Cool. Thanks.
The only thing I was going to add, I've been enjoying working with Meg. I enjoyed working with Denise before that, and Susan runs a tight ship, so I don't remember being, that it was me who was forcing us to have a meeting in August. I don't know, but we did a really nice. Meg did a nice job doing a summary of the comp plan, and one of the things we talked about at the Planning Commission is it's something I would like to get on the agenda as sort of a special report at some point this year. I think it's a good practice. My guess is that if we were all quizzed on the comp plan, we would all make some mistakes on said quiz. So especially when there are new council members, I think there's some value in just doing a comp plan check every couple of years. So just note that that's something that's sort of on the radar for the future for all of us.
Duly noted.
Thanks, you guys.
All right. Thanks, Meg. Thanks, Susan. So as previously mentioned, the PAC interview report has been pulled off the agenda, so we're moving to the quarterly financials, and it looks like Amy Kemper.
I think we have them overhead, if you're all ready to squint a little bit. Basically, the first page talks about revenue analysis, and this is for the whole year. So the red line is budget, and the blue is actual. So revenue was ahead of budget by $257,000, $258,000 rounded for year end, and mostly that's the city income tax counted for $335 to the positive as an overage, and then and as note, the reciprocal tax accounted for about $43,000 of that as of year end. So those are people that are paying their estimated taxes ahead. We think more of that's going to hit in 2024 when people actually realize when they file their tax returns that there's a reciprocal tax. So there's a monthly report that comes out from RETA that tells us what special report for income tax changes. So I've talked to Melissa about that as well, so we can track that. The offset to that $335,000 increase was $124,000 of broadband fees that were not realized, but actually budgeted. So next page is the expense analysis. So again, here the red is the budget and the blue is the actual, and this is the opposite. You want budget to be under actual for expenses. For 2023, we actually had a $404,000 gain for the year end, which means revenue was ahead of expenses, versus we actually have a budgeted loss of $5.5 million. And the differentiation there is we had a couple projects, the water line project for $1.2 million that did not start, that J&T excavating went bankrupt, so that one will be hitting in 2024, so that's the bulk of it. We also had a $500,000 advance that we did not need to use related to that water project and the reimbursement by the grants. So there's another $500,000. Utility overpayment fund was budgeted $228,000, and there wasn't an actual need for a budget because there was just moving expenses to the correct accounts out of overpayment and into the actual enterprise fund. So that was changed. And then stormwater and broadband budgets were allowed to sit this year. So we didn't use any of those expenses that we had budgeted to use, so we could grow those funds a little bit, because those are both brand new funds this year in 2023. And that was about $235,000. Most of the differentiation between budget and actual was personnel expenses. We budget for salary increases on 1/1. It gives us a little leeway for timing and changing of resources. And then the rest was just conservation, doing better than expected on budget expenses. So that's the overview of expenses. Next page is, it's the statement of cash from revenue and expense, and it tells you the breakout by each fund that we have of beginning cash, revenue that comes in, expense that goes out, and ending cash. And then the next column is encumbrance, which means we said we were going to spend it in 2023, we just haven't written the check yet. So that's money due someone else, and we have a PO sitting open waiting for that invoice to come in. And then you come down to unencumbered cash balance. And then the last column just tells you general funds started out at $3 million and ended at $3.7 million, which is a $700,000 increase. And we do that for each of the funds that we have. And you can see the change as we go through. One of the notable ones is the American Rescue Act Fund, which is Fund 223, right in the middle of the page. We used $392,000, which was American Rescue Act funds for COVID, to pay PD salaries for 2023, which is an allowed expense. So that kind of eased the budget for the police department, and we could close that fund out and get that restriction taken off that fund. Next page just tells you the rest of the funds that we have. We have a lot of funds. And you get down to the bottom, it says report total. So we started out the year with almost $11 million in cash, 10.997. We had revenue of $15.2 million, which is the next column. We had expenses of $14.8 million, which gives us our actual cash at the end of the year was $11,400,000. And those encumbrances, which are those expenses we still have to pay for 2023, in 2024 were $1.4 million. And those are the big projects that probably span multiple years. So then, at the end of the year, we expect, if all of those encumbrances are paid, to have $9.9 million, which is a $1 million decrease over the year. It's a lot of numbers. Revenue analysis by fund. So all we're doing is breaking down each fund and where revenue in, revenue out, expected revenue, and was it over or under balance. And on this one, the red is a good thing. That means we collected more than we budgeted for. And in revenue, you generally do, because you never want to underestimate. So our current collection rate for the year, it should be 100% or greater, right? Was 102% overall, which is that $257,000 ahead in cash. The next page is the expenses, and we do the same thing. We just look at appropriations, which are budget, actual, unexpensed, things, which means we didn't use, things we didn't use, encumbrances, which means we still need to pay for those things, and then unencumbered appropriations, which means that's what's left at the end of the year. And if you go to the second page there, to the totals, we had budgeted $20.5 million, and we spent $14.8, which is that $5.687 or $5.687 million that we talked about. So we spent 72.29% of our budget, and then we have that $1.4 million sitting there waiting to be paid. The last page is the bank report. Basically, this just tells you where the cash is at. So we talked about, we had $10.9 million at the beginning of the year, and it tells you in which bank. Some of it's $6 million in Star, Ohio, 1.7, almost 1.8 is with Raymond James, and then West Banco has the remainder, which is $3.2 million. And then the money that came in, $1.1 million, the money that, $15.857 million, and the expense that went out, $15.452 million, and the ending balance of $11,402. So it tells us what percentage is in what place. Of note is we had interest income for 2023 of $555,000 this year. So by managing the cash that we had and the cash flow we have $555,000 more to spend on infrastructure or whatever is determined. So with that being said, if anyone has any questions.
I'm sure Johnny was excited when you said
Infrastructure. I just got to throw it in there.
Yeah, I could just imagine. Lots of opportunities. Oh, and I was just excited to see all that read on the revenue analysis and very little of it on the expense analysis.
Right.
So, the numbers do speak for themselves. Like you said, there's lots of numbers there. But thank you for all the work that's gone into putting this together, and thank you for coming and walking us through it. And I think we do have maybe another comment.
It's not really, you can comment back if you want, but just to say we're, Brian and I on the Finance Committee and looked over this, and great to see, I think generally things are going really well. One of the things that's sort of, I think a question and something for us to be thinking about, so just a flag, is that, our cash balances are strong. We're doing well. And so I think it does open the prospect of, there's a certain degree of our cash balance that we want to maintain for essentially, operating reserve. But I think there is some room to think about other investments. So just flagging it for folks that it's something that should be part of our thinking going forward.
Okay.
And by that, you mean project investments, or?
Yeah, we have,
Yeah.
the functional reality is that we have a bunch of encumbered dollars that are for particular funds that we can't touch, but the general fund has money that we have to invest, that we could invest, and I think it's just worth noting that we're in that position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other type of investments, which are through the roof, which I guess is a good segue to Judy, huh? Thanks, Amy.
Well, as we transition to Judy preparing for her report, Alex, can you please come up to the mic?
Alex Price, Mills Park Hotel. And I was just curious because you mentioned what I think it was like $1.2 million for the water.
For the water grant?
Yeah, and then $500,000 as well. What was the growth that you saw on those accounts, or those cash flows that came in, and what's the plan to continue growing that so that you've got the reserves and whatnot moving forward?
Sure. When we invest in those three locations. We talked about Star, Ohio, and we talked about Raymond James and West Banco, and whenever interest income comes in, it's allocated to the general fund and the enterprise funds in proportion to the revenue that each of those funds has. So it's not like general fund gets all the interest. The $1.2 million is a grant. to do the water line replacement. And the $500,000 advance is only to get us through those first couple months, because they're going to buy all the pipe and they're going to say, hey, we want $400,000, and we're not going to get reimbursed yet. So once that grant cycle begins and we start getting our checks back monthly, we will pay the general fund back. It's merely a loan. It has to be paid back by the end of 2024. That's when it advances. That's the rule. So I think Johnny said they're starting in a couple weeks. As soon as we get a contract signed and everybody's ready to go, then that project should be self-funding once we get to June, I would guess. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the question, and thanks for the response. All right. Judy, I've stalled long enough now.
Stop, that was good, thank you. Well, it's continues to be good news. So we first got your quarterly comparison. So at the end of December 2023, we had under active investment $11,401,469, which is an increase of $404,801 since the report given in November, which ended September 30th. And that's derived from combining Star Ohio, Raymond James, and West Banco accounts. Annually, interest earnings from investments for 2023 total were Raymond James $70,759, West Banco $162,502, and Star Ohio $322,490. Total interest income in 2023, again, as Amy said, $555,752. That is $409,368 over 2022, which is kind of awesome. The investment picture stabilized a lot in the last 2 years. So while interest income is not as jaw-droppingly higher as it was in the 2021-22 comparison, returns continue to be robust. You can follow cash balances for 23, 22, 21, and just look at how those compare with one another and where amounts are located depending on the rate of return for those entities. Handy pie charts, which may go away when Amy does. Brad Rigger's quarterly report was not in when I wrote this report. I'll get it out to you. In fact, it is now in. I'll get it out to you. Currently, we have investment funds in Star Ohio and Raymond James, and the sweep account rate is, as of August 12th, 2023, earning 5.46%. Raymond James investment account securities as of September 30th, this is harkening back, I did not have an update at that time, we're at 4.13% with a 1.87-year commitment. West Banco is at 5.46 with nearly immediate availability. And we will just need to continue checking in with West Banco regularly to negotiate depending upon market fluctuation. Star Ohio is continuing to remain high. Annualized yield rate Friday was actually not 5.66, it was 5.64. Treasury rates are steady in the near term, but reflect forecasting of lower rates in the future as we move farther out. And then I gave you the rates for a month, year, 2-year, and 5-year. And finally, I greatly miss the pleasure of working with Amy Kemper in all of her capacities as our finance director. We'll especially miss her patient collaboration on treasurer reports and her pie chart skills. Given her financial acuity, her unimpeachable ethics, sense of humor, and ability to explain financial matters clearly and simply, she will be difficult to replace and very much missed. Thank you so much. Thank you.
That was a very sweet note. We appreciate that. Did we make a decision with Brian or Judy to not, I know you said the Brad Drager report hadn't come in yet, but did we decide to not put it in the packet, or am I?
The whole thing is not going in the packet,
Okay.
but that you did get chunks of the report in the treasurer report.
Okay,
So,
okay. Well, I will admit that I only cherry-picked, the larger reports, but there was also always some interesting nuggets in there. So, and it did make the packet a bit more burdensome.
Oh, yeah, it did.
But we appreciate all of the information that we've received. Thank you very much. And even though I don't work with Amy as closely as you, I'm going to miss you as well for all of the above stated reasons. All right.
Thanks, Amy.
But we can show you how to do the pie charts, Judy.
She keeps saying that.
All right, manager's report. Johnny, you
All
are up.
right, so I'm going to do this fast, I think.
We'll see.
Okay, so we heard from Meg tonight. This is just a kind of an overview of her report. The Cascades, we are meeting to talk about that. The engineering is done. They're getting ready to submit the water for EPA permission, and the electric is still being designed by Encompass. And Emily and myself are meeting tomorrow to talk about some other things. Keith's Alley water main and sewer tap and electric across the alley is all complete. Thanks to villagers, business owners, contractors, and village staff. We had to pick the worst 3 to 4 weeks to work in that alley with cold weather, rain, but it worked out great. The new message boards, the new communication that Ben's putting out worked flawless. We went door to door for all the businesses, and we even combed off certain spots where we made places for YS Credit Union to be able to park there because we was using their back lot as well. So it worked out great. We do have a confirmed date, July 8th. We'll be taking the second tower down to be able to start on that. It should be about a 3-month process as well. We're also working in conjunction with the water main projects to make sure all the big mains are completed prior to July 8th, so we have no unexpected draining of the water towers. I highlight one section on the back, and you guys will see this. We are closed on the 19th for President's Day, Judy, just in case you, 19th of February. It was in the manager's report, by the way. Survey is on there. If you guys want to take a minute, fill out the survey for communications. Ben has got a survey out there. Where do you get your information from? We're just trying to figure out the best way to get communications out there. We even have a other category because we may not know where you're looking for information. So take your time, reach out to Ben, reach out to the survey, or you can go on the manager's information page and you can do the set there as well. J&T, we signed paperwork for the settlement agreement. We are waiting for the final process, but we should receive the check in 8 to 10 days, and that will transition on into the contract. The electric, we had a meeting out of Springs Meadow this morning. The electric, the water, the gas, the spectrum, and we need to get with Mavecca and talk about fiber conduit. If we're paying for that to be put in the ditch at the same time, they actually started digging this morning. So we're a little bit behind the 8 ball, and it's been a fast 8 ball. So to make note, the water for the Village of Yellow Springs is sitting in Washington, D.C. for a taste competition on the 7th. So we will be serving the water out. We won't be, but they will be serving the water out, hopefully to be able to call us and tell us what we already know, that we have the best water in the nation.
Oh,
so
man, that would be something.
that would be phenomenal. Brad and his crew, they actually did get special bottles. Ohio Rural Water made us bottles that had it all labeled up. It has the logos and all that on it. So Ohio Rural Water actually transported the water versus us mailing it. They actually hand delivered the water for us. I had planned on attending. Brad wasn't going to be able to. I was going to, but plans changed. So they volunteered to take it up there. We said sure. So
Nice.
The poll on West Whiteman for the broadband, I wanted to make sure that everybody knows we did get that put in place so broadband can go back and fix that property that they cut the corner on with the old contractor. So I need to make sure that Thor knows that as well so we can get that rehooked up. Bryant Center is booming. We have actually ordered the cabinets for the kitchen, so they'll be coming in pretty soon. We fixed the doors that have not fit in to close. We've got that fixed, and Samantha has scheduled for the Floors to be cleaned in the youth center and waxed to make sure that we can make them last longer. The gym, it will be posted. We are resurfacing the gym floor. It's a rental, we don't know how it happened, but somebody gouged the floor pretty drastically. So we have to sand the top off. While we're doing that, I'm going to put it out there right now. I've thrown everything in the pie to keep Amy Kemper. I even offered putting pickleball in.
Oh, wow.
There will be pickleball court in the gymnasium after it's all said and done. And Samantha will be the one to kind of oversee that whole situation, but it didn't work. I tried. I've even talked about putting a rowing machine in the back room. So, but you'll see some pictures of the crews for the Keys Alley. A lot of work. I mean, it does not go, and we're still not done. We're actually using a local contractor to help us finish up the work for the permitted side of that. So you'll see some more work being done out there. We do have all the water lines in, sewer lines in, broadband from the poles underground to the buildings, all the electric conduits. So essentially, we're taking everything underground for the first part of the alley, and we have future to go further down the alley. So let's see here. Water main, I got to give a shout out to Fairborn. I have a note on here. I did mention it last time, but there's a picture in here. Fairborn brought in a vac truck on the last water main break. Our water truck, or our vac truck broke. We finally got it back to the shop. Fairborn actually called in 2 people, brought us a truck, and within 45 minutes of them being on the scene, we had the main fixed. And I said, hey, send me an invoice, and they're like, yeah, right. So that is, Brian, if you go back to when we first started 10 years ago, that was one of the things that we said we needed to get is better working together, better situation. And it was simply a phone call. We could have done it to multiple jurisdictions around here. That is one thing that we have established. And it goes both ways. If they need help, I mean, we're helping Oakwood as well. Oakwood is bringing their sewage out of their truck that they suck out. They have no place to dump it. We actually have a place at the wastewater treatment plant that we built a couple of years ago, and they can dump some of their grit out, and then we put it in the dumpster once it drains off. So reaching out to a lot of people to be able to help us run smoother. If we need a pinch, or if they need a pinch, we're working together, collaborating together. So that's the reason why the picture's in there, just to remind me to say thank you. They have brought their cameras in. Greene County's brought their cameras in.
Nice.
The other thing we have is the meters, or Rose is putting the meters in. I just wanted to say we have done extensive research. Brian, you'll remember this. The meters that we're putting in are not harmful. Your cell phone is more harmful than the meter itself. Eventually, we will be all AMI, and the water meters will be all AMI. So Rose is working due diligence to get them all installed, but eventually they will all be installed. So that is what I have for the manager's report. Like I said, the survey is there to help us communicate better, so please take the time to, it's literally probably 5 seconds. Log in, click what you like, add what you want. It will be able to communicate better.
Nice.
So, Johnny, you mentioned, and I remember the conversations about the meters, whether they were safe as well. But I know that the conversation started about ensuring that broadband got laid, that fiber got laid throughout Spring Meadows while the trenches were dug.
Right.
But tell me where we are on our. Do we not have a dig once policy where we would, all that stuff would just happen automatically without?
We do, and there is communications going in those ditches, but we don't have the pipe. We don't have the policy. the dig once, there's Spectrum's going in there, AT&T's going in there, electric's going in there, water's in there, gas is in there, so all those are already in there.
Okay. All right. Okay, good. Like to hear that.
What's up? And just one thing I had. So I appreciate the, continued focus on shared services.
Correct.
Very important. One thing I thought about with the, and it's, I guess really for Ben, but with the website project is I was reminded that one of our users that often asks about the website are our commissions and committees and boards. And so just making sure that there's some outreach.
Yes.
It's come up at a couple commission meetings recently, so I didn't want to forget that.
Correct.
They're always asking, where can we put our stuff, and, better communicate with the village.
Yep. And we are in the very first stages of that website, and once we get to that, then Ben will be reaching out to other folks as well.
Cool, thanks.
All right. Well, thank you, Johnny, for all of that. Oh, okay. Old business. I was about to jump to new business. I don't mind jumping to new business, but old business, we have the retreat. We have on the 26th of January, council and staff met for a long meeting that some folks would refer to as a retreat. Several things were discussed there. I think it was a good launching point for ongoing discussions about goals and priorities. And we also talked about the village manager search process. I'll just pull out a couple of things I have highlighted. We did, Johnny added the information about SMART goals to make sure, that the goals that we did end up with, bless you, did meet that criteria. We did also do some very preliminary discussions about strategic planning, that we would like to eventually do that, but this meeting that we just had was not that. We talked about being more transparent and more communicative. I think I heard someone else say how much more communicative things have happened, have been in the village. We appreciate that. We had at least one community member here that talked about potentially streamlining our meetings. And Brian, on that note, I'm just reminded, I want to thank you for the information. I was not on the ICMA mailing list, but getting information about and I signed up for that, but I think it's in the future still, for that streamlining your meetings and better meeting management. So I think I would encourage, I think Julie got the message to all of us. I think it would be good to do that. We did suggest as part of that meeting that we would come back with a broader report on broadband. That was also highlighted in Johnny's report, in Johnny's manager report. I see Gavin happened to mention his concern. We all sort of shared part of what we were interested in, and just have one highlighted. I think that we'll hear a lot more about in the future, about population, age, affordability, and diversity in the village. There was talk about getting a better, more streamlined permitting process. And I don't want to go through all of this. It's in the packet. There was nothing really earth-shattering about it. Again, we created that foundation, I think, for how we'll move forward with our priorities going throughout the rest of the year. And I think a big piece of that maybe wasn't as large a part of the meeting as it could have been is, I think, the village manager process. But I think we are set up well to get some great gains as we step through that process. So again, and I would just open the floor to the rest of council. Is there anything else that you felt like was really meaningful, or if you want to reiterate some of the things you highlighted as your primary priorities? like I said, there was nothing, again, everything was important, but I just didn't want to go through. I mean, I have more highlighted than I want to talk about in the interest of time. Nope? All right, okay.
I mean, I'll just say, I sort of put everything into a chart. I was sick, I was out last week, so I had sent a note to the agenda planning kind of crew, or at least to Judy and Johnny and Kevin, with that sort of summary. I mean, we were all there, there were some things that were brought up the most. Right now, the the manager report is like responding to these 4 things. I think there's maybe a little bit of a different set of things that were popping up as priorities. And then I think we should have some discussion about how and when we might talk about some of these topics. So there might be some, there were a couple different things mentioned that might end up being a work session or might end up being an agenda item. So I think for the next meeting, look for a sort of a summary and then some suggestions about next steps.
All right, great. Anyone else?
Yeah, maybe I'll, because it also gives context for part of the reason we're doing the survey about how do you get your, local government information. Chief Burge highlighted, because we all talked about key goals, the goal of really improving those communications and making sure that the things we prioritize are more data-driven and Johnny kind of coined the goals for the village idea, which I think is really important. So I'm excited about that as well. I think doing a better job of understanding beyond the nuts and bolts what our neighbors and neighborhoods are looking for is going to be great. The other thing, Judy, I just wanted to, I don't know if some things changed after, but I wanted to, with the list of committees and commissions, there were a couple things that I wanted to make sure were right. First of all, with the Housing Committee, that should be, we set that up like the Finance Committee, so it should just be council. There's not a liaison and an alternate. And I don't know if that's been a confusion in the past, but I think that's why, Kevin highlighted at the retreat, we want to make sure, because all of us talked about housing, that we've got 2 active council members on that committee.
And then Susan's on that too. That was the other one that was missing on that.
Yep. Then I thought Carmen was still the other representative on DC?
She is.
Okay, so on this list, it's got Kevin, so, so it should be Brian and Carmen.
Yep.
And then active transportation is second Wednesdays, not third Tuesdays. And the only other thing is, not that we need to put Kevin and my name under municipal broadband, but maybe for consistency, that's good, just in case someone says, hey, I want to ask about what's going on with broadband. So that's all I had.
Thank you. Great, thanks. Anyone else from the retreat or the long meeting? Okay. Johnny, looks like you're up for gas aggregation.
I am. And Brian, I did receive your email. I'm going to reach out to Riverside.
Good.
So, this is just an overview of the information that I was told that I'd bring you. The reason why we rejected the 5.4 or 5 cents is because our average is lower than what they was offering. So I put on here what my recommendations were for a resolution, maybe to be able to, if they call and say, hey, by the way, we got a great deal at 2 cents, then I don't want to miss that opportunity. But if council next time can pass a resolution with the numbers, and maybe after I even talk with Riverside, maybe it's something I can send out to council as a memo, this is what they're paying.
So there's no, that the aggregation therefore is not, it's not driven by the calendar. We don't have to do it at any particular time. We can switch when we want to go in and come back out.
It's locked in 12 months at a time.
Once you get in, okay.
Once you're in,
But
so
we can go in anytime.
I don't suggest winter time is the best time to go out for a gas price.
Got you, yep.
So,
Wise comment.
but as you can see, residential average was 0.39. And so even though it would have been about the same for us at the Bryan Center, we'd have raised everybody's bills for the residential side.
Yeah, but I definitely trust, I remember, I think even last meeting you said that was probably going to be the case.
Yes.
Okay, good, great.
So, is it okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's fascinating. I mean, why is it cost more to get a lot of gas than to get? So obviously the time of the year, but even at the time of the year, I mean, like the peak it's almost at the peak. So I guess we'll check again in a few months, but I guess this opens up the question of, are we confident that this is the best that we can do with this entity, or is there anyone else we should check in with to make sure? Because it's almost like defies logic.
I am not 100% confident. Brian has reached out, and I'm going to have a meeting with the Riverside manager as well.
Okay.
They are also in the program, so I want to see what benefits they're getting and how they can maybe help us, leverage some of that.
Yeah, I'll also say, I mean, Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission is all in with SOPEC. I mean, it's like connected to a lot of their environmental sustainable goals. But that's why we're trying to, check with some of these other communities and see what's up. We did have Mark Heiss introduced us to another provider. We could circle back. Josue and I met with them when we met with SOPAC and SOPEC. So,
One thing that I can say is you mentioned Brian, and completely could be just the way that I read it, is a lot of the other communities don't have 100% renewable electric utility, so they are trying to jump on board to try to get some of that renewable energy and gas. And so that's what I want to reach out to Riverside for, to see, because they're trying to catch up and we're trying to help out.
All right. Brian, was that, if memory serves, at MVRPC, we were talking to Sarah, was it the Riverside connection that she gave you? Okay, good. Okay, thanks.
So this is like them going to talk, like they're going to the...
They're going on the open market to try to find the best deal for us.
Man,
And
there's so much competition in the gas market.
Correct.
It's just shocking to me that anyway, I don't understand. Okay, well, thanks for looking into it. I mean, have y'all been to the Apples to Apples page? There's so many options.
I haven't, but I certainly will.
You should if you don't, because you can probably get a better rate personally.
Yeah. All right, Carmen.
Next week, or next
No.
council.
PACC.
Oh, I thought the report is moved, but the nomination.
Yeah, nominations. So, nominating Phoenix Fire to be on Public Arts and Cultural Commission. A lot of people know Phoenix. She's been around for quite a few years and is a phenomenal poet. A couple years ago, she founded the People's Poetry Party, and we had a few readings at the Arts Council building that were very well attended. She featured a couple local artists, visual artists at those readings during the summer. They were pretty successful. She is very enthusiastically interested in joining the commission, and she's exactly the kind of person that we need on commission, because she's interested in doing things and making things happen, planning events and stuff like that. So I'm excited about her.
all right, I'll second. I think Phoenix is great. Glad that you've been able to serve.
Okay, so we have, in terms of nomination, we have a nomination and a second. All in favor of moving forward with placing Phoenix Fire on the Public Arts and Culture Commission, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the nomination has passed. And why do I keep losing my agenda?
And then we have a second one. Okay.
Well, she hasn't been interviewed yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, we got the goods.
Yep.
We got
Got the goods. All right, future agenda items. So it is the 20th, we got that straight. So our next meeting is on the 20th.
Well, I was not confused about the 20th, only about President's Day.
Okay.
So, we should be ready with the parking donations thing. The broadband work session, is that still seeming like it's able to move forward for 6 to 7 o'clock on that day?
I'm not committed because we've got a couple of other meetings broadband related in the meantime. So I would say that maybe needs to go.
Probably push it.
Yeah, definitely need to push it.
Okay, moving that.
And Brian, are you, I'm sorry.
Sorry, go
Judy,
ahead.
Brian, I can't even remember the two. I think they're on the same day. On Wednesday, we have, well, Johnny and I are going to meet with one provider.
Yep.
Okay, so you're there for that one?
Yep.
And so the broadband group was going to meet later in the day. Do we need to push that?
No, we canceled, both of them are canceled. We had to move the other one as well.
Okay.
So that freed up. Thor wasn't able to make the meeting, so we're pushing it out.
Okay, all right. So definitely no on the 20th for broadband. All right, good enough.
And then can I just flag, whenever we do get to it, you think an hour is going to be enough?
Probably not.
No.
Okay.
No.
I just asked, let's just plan it out. If it's- I know there's a lot of people who have worked for it a long time, so.
Yeah. Good. Thanks for that.
And then what the YSPD report's coming off. We've got EC, PAC, and then we'll talk in agenda planning about how are we moving forward here with annual goals and the council rules and procedures.
Okay. All right, that seems like enough. And then, of course, because those two other reports are going to be there, we're not looking for more stuff to add to the agenda for the next meeting. So I think it'll be full enough as it is.
So village manager search, right? That follow-up we just talked about after executive session?
And of course, the official next meeting will be the 14th.
Okay. It's really a special meeting for an executive session.
Right.
Do you have supplemental on here for the 20th?
I don't.
When there's supplemental. And then we'll also, supplemental on the 20th, and then we'll also have a tree contract for the 20th as well.
A tree bid or a contract?
A tree contract,
Contract for tree trim?
yes.
So the 20th will be fully packed, and we'll try to dissect in agenda planning and see if there's something we can move around or compress or something. But it's a hefty lad already, or less, depending on your perspective. Okay. Anything else for future agenda items? Alrighty, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No one ever opposes adjournment.
Stay.